Hello, everyone, and welcome back finally to episode 3 of this Aftermath series. Finally back from vacation. It was awesome, but I won't talk about that. We got a lot to talk about with this previous episode, so let's not waste any time and let's just get right into the discussion. Since I'm pretty sure most of it has already sort of happened, but there are definitely some things that I want to touch on and talk about. There's a lot of interesting things that happened in this episode. It wasn't there was some action, but it was a bit tamer than the previous few that we've had. So let's just get right into it. This time I did not write things down on a piece of paper. I had a Google Docs open and would just sort of clickety-clack things down as they came up. So we'll just go down the list of things that I wrote down. Originally, when they were towards the beginning of the episode, when they were still planning their course of action that they wanted to take to assault this stronghold, someone had brought up burning the place down. Obviously that wouldn't work because of the stoneworks, and you can't really burn stone. But it just made me think that I feel as though Caleb would certainly not want to have that happen, given his traumatic past and what happened there. Give me 1 second. There's a fan going. I don't want that fan causing background noise, so 1 second. I bumped the green screen a little bit. Oh, and speaking of speaking of colors, anyways, so obviously given what happened, it was a very small thing, but obviously given what happened with Caleb's past, I feel like burning the place down would not settle well with him. Ultimately, they obviously did not go with that, so it doesn't really matter. An interesting point was brought up during the episode where they were talking about the prisoners that they kept. They were talking about, because you know how the Iron Shepherds, they break the people that they take. It started getting me thinking about how the captured members of the Mighty Nine might handle such conditions. And so I sort of started theory crafting, I guess, how those other members would handle being tortured and possibly broken down. Yasha, I feel like she would not be affected to the extent that they would hope. I feel like she's fairly strong-willed, and they would not be able to break her. However, Jester and Ford is where it gets kind of tricky. Obviously, we would like to believe that our steadfast heroes would not be broken under the might of the Iron Shepherds. However, I'm not so sure. There's obviously a very great chance that they will be fine, but it's something to think about. Of what if they are broken. I feel like Jester, in her case, she grew up relatively sheltered. Also, a side note, I apologize if you hear, I have doves, and if you hear them cooing in the background, they're doves. That's what they are. So I apologize if you hear that. Moving on. So Jester, she was obviously very isolated when she grew up, which is where she sort of came upon the Traveler and all that stuff. So I feel as though being isolated, if they are isolated, they may be torturing them together, like group torturing, fun. I don't know. The Iron Shepherds are sick and disgusting, but it would be interesting that if she were isolated, she would sort of, and if the Traveler has no way of contacting her, because perhaps the Traveler is not omnipotent. That word, you know the word I'm trying. It'd be interesting if she really felt alone and she sort of was broken down that way. She felt like she was alone again. No one was coming for her. She has no idea if her friends are going to come for her. They've only been traveling for a couple months. Obviously, she's very hopeful and high-spirited, so it's possible that would carry her through the torturing. But I feel like there's a chance that she would revert. Not revert, because as far as we know, she's always been like this, but it's possible that she would sort of change and be broken down through remembering being isolated when she was a child. But again, we don't know how she really felt about her childhood and how she felt alone. we haven't really gotten too far into the mind of our beloved blue tiefling. Ford was interesting. He sort of puts on this, maybe not facade, but there's this air about him that's very confident and charming, obviously given his high charisma. But we know a little bit about his childhood, about how he was bullied and picked on as a kid. So it's possible that through these torturings and beatings, it would sort of give him PTSD, I guess, similar to Caleb, to where he might just totally shut down and break down as these memories flood back to him of being picked on and stuff, for being a half-orc and all of that. But I would like to think that Jester and Ford would be able to handle this, and maybe Yasha would be able to sort of give them encouragement to pull through. But it's something interesting to think about. Obviously, I hope that everything is fine with them, but it'd be interesting narrative-wise, for the story, if one or two of them was very negatively impacted by this, and it has sort of long-term effects. I think that would be very interesting for the story and create an interesting dynamic within the group. But obviously, I hope everything is fine. But again, I really care about I love complications in the story, and I feel like that would be a very interesting one to sort of have. Moving on. I have sort of two that go along with each other. I'm trying to scroll down to find where I had marked this one down. I can't remember where I wrote it down, but I remember writing it down. So, the bag that Nila sort of carries around, it's rather strange that she looks to it for guidance and such. However, it was sort of proven that it works, sort of, maybe. It just sort of had that air of mystery about it. But the group seemed fairly accepting of this strange trick that Nila was sort of pulling. And it's interesting that as this story is going on, has progressed, the Mighty Nein seems to be more and more accepting of these strange things. I don't know if it's because they're just getting used to it, or if because they're sort of taking on Molly's sort of go with the flow. Everyone's different in their own way. Don't question it. Don't judge. Just let everyone be themselves. It's possible they're sort of adopting that philosophy as to sort of help Molly's memory live on. Or they've just seen so much already that, a bag that tells you good from bad, sure, that seems fair. But also the naive nature of Nila sort of reminds me of Jester in certain aspects, especially when you think of the Traveler, how she sort of looks to the Traveler for guidance and stuff. That's sort of the same with Nila. She looks to her bag as a sort of guidance. So it's kind of an interesting parallel there. I think that's the word. I'm not too poetic with words. Sure. Never mind. Moving on again. I think that's enough there. But still on the topic of Nila, I love the small things in the story, the small role-playing choices that characters use that maybe go under the radar for some people. I was trying to figure out a role-playing or story reason for Nila taking the luck feat, and I sort of had the idea of the fact that she has a very low intelligence. I sort of had the idea of like a fool's luck or a dumb's luck sort of role-playing thing, where she's very low intelligence, but for some reason the stars align. Ooh, the lighting is very bland. Whatever, it's fine. Whatever. Back on topic. I apologize. Nila, like the stars aligned, and for whatever reason, sometimes things just work for Nila. That's sort of the best thing I could theory craft as far as like a role-playing thing. I think it's kind of interesting, kind of makes sense. But I thought it was just fun to sort of try to figure out why she might have this strange luck about her. We'll talk about that later, because that's the big topic. We'll talk about that later. Another small thing that I thought was rather curious. So when the group first came upon the dodecahedron, Caleb was super interested in finding out all of its secrets and learning more about it. And I feel like he still feels the same way, but it's sort of lessened since there's more urgent matters at hand. However, given his fascination and somewhat obsession with reversing time, controlling time, trying to figure out maybe how he could possibly fix the past, it's interesting that he is not selfish with the dodecahedron and wanting its effects to himself, or sort of trying to persuade the members of the Mighty Nine to let him use it for the most part. You think that's what he would want to do, considering the abilities of the mote. However, he still realizes that he doesn't really need this. You know, the members of his party may have more use to it, given different circumstances. Obviously, there may be circumstances where it would be better with Caleb, but again, going back to my point, it's just interesting that he's putting his own selfish reasons behind and putting the group before that. I feel like that's a step in the right direction for Caleb's character, and it's sort of interesting to think about, and it will be interesting to see how it progresses, and how he sort of deals with that if they get more information on what this dodecahedron is actually capable of and where it is from. So just something to sort of think about. And again, another small thing that I quickly jotted down. Back when they were in the process of executing their plan, they made it over the walls, and they were moving into the stronghold, and they were going to send Not into the stronghold with Spider Frumpkin on his shoulder to sort of scatter around, look for the trapdoor. Keg, put her hand on Not's shoulder and said, be careful. And Not was like, oh, you do care, you do care about me. And Keg was like, well, yeah. I just thought that was a really, really sweet moment, Keg showing emotion and attachment to the characters. I don't know. Small thing. I just thought it was really sweet and adorable. So I guess we can talk about the big thing. Taliesin! Taliesin finally made his appearance in this episode. And one of the theories that I adopted was he was one of the characters in the prison, and the other one that I made mention in the previous Aftermath episode was, I bet he is the hermit priest. And he was the hermit priest out in the forest, and I thought that was absolutely wonderful. I was like 98% sure that was him, since that was the only NPC that was mentioned besides the prisoners that the group had not seen yet. And also Taliesin had said he's a different kind of fabulous, so I was like, oh, crazy hermit in the woods. Yeah, that sounds like Taliesin. That sounds like something he would do. So yay for that. I thought that was awesome. I loved his introduction. I believe the first line he said was like, oh, I only have 3 cups. I only have 3 cups of tea. Or I don't know. I can't exactly remember, because I just watched the episode. I haven't really gone back to rewatch anything. But amazing, perfect introduction for his character. I love everything about him so far. But I feel like there's so many theories that we can talk about regarding his character. He's like a hippie. He's like a hippie who seems perpetually stoned, which is absolutely wonderful. Just the way he talks, he's just sort of so lax. He's got flowers everywhere. He's got herbs. He's got tea. Seems like a wonderful, perfect character for Taliesin. It'll be super interesting to see how he fits into the group. And it'll be interesting to see how he fits the group dynamic and how his personality sort of clashes with everyone. And Caleb already likes him. He said several times throughout the episode, he's like, I like this one. And it's super interesting because he's very, I feel like for Caleb, his perception of Caduceus Clay, he's very just level-headed, it seems, just very chill, just go with the flow. He's not as loud. as the previous party members, as the current party members. So it seems like a nice change of pace for Caleb, and he seems very smart, capable, willing. Obviously, traits that Caleb is very endeared towards. I don't know if that's the correct way to use that word. Anyways, but he's a grave cleric that enjoys gardening. That's great. I love it. I loved his his area with the tombstones and the flowers that grow with them, with the sunlight that comes through. Just beautiful imagery by Matt. And I wonder if Taliesin had came up with that idea of Caduceus' sort of realm or territory, or if Matt had already sort of planned that. It'd be interesting to learn who came up with what. One quick theory that I want to touch on. So the area that they are in, the Mighty Nein, is not within the Empire. It's like its own sort of no man's land region. This is like a side note. That's not the point I'm trying to make here. The armor that Caduceus has, he described it as insect-like. The only other time we have heard of insect-like armor is from Xhorhas, the Cricks. So I'm wondering if there's some kind of a connection there. Caduceus made mention of a sister. I think he said that his sister made the armor. I could be completely wrong there, but I remember something about a sister. His sister was mentioned. She may or may not be correlated with the armor. I can't remember what was said. You may feel free to correct me down in the comments, or if I am correct, expand on it. It would be interesting to see if he has some kind of a connection there. Moving on. Obviously, there's so much to talk about, and I may have to make a separate discussion video on just Taliesin's character. But I feel like we didn't actually get too much information about him. Because there was like a set plan and set schedule. The Mighty Nein just had to go. Like, we have things to do. We can't waste time. So there wasn't really a whole lot to be said or done with Caduceus' character. Moving right along here. Another interesting thing. So during the fight, when they were down in the main floor, and Caleb dealt that final blow to the female barbarian. Her name is escaping me. Can't remember her name. But he burned her to a crisp. And obviously he had to roll the wisdom saving throw, and he succeeded. Now, obviously it's D&D and it's based off a dice roll, but he succeeded. So in a story sense, the fact that he was able to shake off this PTSD shows immense strength and will from Caleb, and sort of a character progression where it seems like he's finally sort of getting hold of his emotions and maybe slowly but surely moving back to his confident self that he was before he was a broken man. Sorry, there's something just came up on my screen. Moving on. And I think that's really heartwarming that, from a story sense, it feels like he's finally given everything that's happening, given Molly's death. He's finally becoming up, comfortable with the group, making friends. He's coming out of his shell more. He's finally on the path to healing, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. And I'm so excited to see if they even, because Bo sort of looked at him after it had happened, and she was, are you good, or what? Or she was like, what, like, whoa, Caleb, like, holy shit. So it'd be interesting if she brings that up again as like a side conversation, if they take watch or something. I really hope they do, because I want to see what Caleb thinks of that. But I think he's on the right path to healing, and I'm excited to see Caleb's true self. Hopefully he doesn't revert back to his evil self. That would be bad. And now branching off of that with Bo, it seems like she's showing so much more emotion now than previously, which is really interesting. I feel like this goes back to Molly's death having such a huge impact on her. she's definitely more open with her emotions, especially with Nila. They had that wonderful embrace after Nila had left. And obviously she's very choked up. Obviously Marisha was choked up, but it was sort of bleeding into Bo. I hope that was, again, there's so much character progression going on. You know, it's morbid and sad to think that Molly's death had to happen in order for these characters to progress, but it's such a beautiful story element, and I'm glad it happened. You know, we're seeing great things from the players and the characters, and it's interesting to see how they move forward. And Caduceus, I feel like he's going to bring a lot of interesting things to the table. And it'll be interesting to see how, when they do get Yasha and Ford and Jester back, how they're going to react to Caduceus sort of replacing Molly, and how they're going to react to Molly being gone. Of course, Yasha, there will be waterworks that episode when Yasha comes back and realizes Molly is gone. But given the fact that Caduceus is a cleric, it'll be interesting to see the dynamic between Caduceus and Jester. So it'll be nice to see how that goes down. I imagine Jester will be floored that there's another healer, one that seems a bit more willing. I feel obviously it's not true, but it felt like Caduceus did more healing than Jester did. Obviously I feel like Jester did more healing out of combat. No, I'm totally wrong. Obviously, no. 100% obviously Jester did more healing, but it was just funny, like, poking at Laura, because it seems like she's not a super fan of healing, just like, oh, it looks like Caduceus is already doing more healing than her. It's not true, but it's just funny to poke fun. And what a sweet final moment and send-off for our beloved Nila. A beautiful moment, the reuniting of her son and her mate. Such a beautiful scene, obviously, with the hug from Bo and the motherly strength to free her mate and her son from the cage, and then their embrace, and then the red feather that Nila gave Bo, essentially. A beautiful moment for Nila. She was a much needed character for what had happened previously. And it's sad to see her go, but I'm sure we'll see her again, maybe in NPC form, or maybe Somalia will come back and guest star as Nila again when she is much stronger. We'll have to see, but a very touching moment. And I think Ashley is staying. I think she's staying one more episode, I think. Maybe two more, depending on what happens next week, which is the live episode. And I really wish I could have been there. It would have been amazing to see what happens next in a live setting. I can just imagine the reactions of the crowd if Ford and Jester and Yasha were seen or rescued, even in NPC form. Just hearing the crowd and seeing the reactions of everyone. Sad I'm going to miss it, but obviously I'll see it on Twitch. I don't know if it's being live broadcasted. I'm not exactly sure. But I really wish I could have been there. And I believe that is it. There's a few off-topic things that I sort of want to touch on real quick. I wrote them down in the Google Docs, and I also wrote some down on my phone. I definitely missed you guys over on the vacation. I deeply apologize that I wasn't able to. I did try to watch the episode on Thursday because I brought my laptop on vacation with me, because I was like, I'll at least try see if I can scrape something together. However, the Wi-Fi that we had where we were staying was awful, so I tried watching the stream and it was lagging and skipping constantly, so I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to try. I'll miss information and it won't have the same effect if something dramatic did happen, so I'll just wait till I got home, which I did. And I'm sure most of what I talked about has already been discussed and you guys already had that chance. But again, feel free to expand or touch on topics that I brought up or bring up your own. I really appreciate all the support and kind words I've been getting with these. I really, really do love doing these discussion videos. They've been met with great success and welcome and open arms from the community. You know, you guys have been great with discussions. It's just really heartwarming to see. I just love the community so much. Everyone's so supportive. and it's just a beautiful thing to see. I love discussing everything we are all so passionate about, even if my words don't always make sense and I seem everywhere. I'm glad you guys are very understanding and you still have very open conversations. It warms my heart, and I can't thank you guys enough for being a part of this. It's something I really enjoy doing. Which brings me to something else that I want to talk about is content that you guys might want to see. I know a lot of you guys really, really enjoy these discussion videos, and I am very open to having more of them rather than just the one Aftermath episode a week. I had the idea of taking some of the bigger things that I talked about in these videos and then going into more details in another video. So I could possibly have like this video and then maybe 1 or 2 other videos in a week that go more in depth about these, that I can maybe, after discussion has happened with this video, I can take some points that people brought up, bring them into a new video, and go into more detail with those. That is something I can do. That could be fun. More discussions can happen that way, more in-depth analysis rather than just initial reactions and things that I want to talk about. It could be a bit more fun and interesting. So that's on the table. I will continue to try to make highlight videos if that's something you want to do. I will try to do a highlight video for this episode. I'm still not sure what I would want to do because, again, I just finished watching the episode and I was more focused on finding things to talk about than looking for highlight potential clips. So we'll see about that. I really am interested in going into more detail on certain topics, so that might be something I might want to focus on a bit more, given the success of these videos that I've been doing. Let me see if I don't want to end the video in case I missed anything. There is, so I don't want to talk too much about this project because I'm not sure how or if I can do it. I have a project in mind that I would really, really want to do because a passion that I have of mine is writing and filmmaking, short films, stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure you guys could tell where I'm going with this. It would be my dream to make something film related about Critical Role. But again, I have, no budget, nothing, like not very many resources. I have a few connections and people that I know that could assist with something like this, but still in the very, very early stages of thinking about this. I already have an idea of what I would want to do as far as like a first sort of short film for it. There's beeping in the background. Irrelevant. But it is very much something that I would want to do. A project that I would think, because I haven't really seen anyone take it upon themselves to make any sort of short film or like live action video about Critical Role. So it's something I'd very much like to explore. Let me know what you guys think if you would want to support something like that. It'd be interesting to see it. Obviously, it'd be months and months and months away because, again, as I said, it's in the very early stages of sort of processing, because I don't even know how I would do it. But it's, again, something I would super, super, super want to do. But that's okay. That's all I wanted to mention there. Other than that, I believe that is everything I wanted to talk about. One final thing, if you haven't already, be sure to check out CriticalGeminiHero's channel. I will link it in the description below. She is amazing. She makes wonderfully edited highlight videos for Critical Role. They're absolutely hilarious, and I highly suggest you check them out if you're looking for a good laugh and you love Critical Role as much as everyone else in the critter community does. Fantastic work. You can tell she puts a lot of time into them, and be sure to give her a view and subscribe to her channel. It'd be very much appreciated. But other than that, I believe it is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and again, feel free to discuss below. I love reading all of your comments and engaging in the discussions. You all have absolutely amazing points to make, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of theories about good old Mr. Clay from this episode and what he might bring to the table. But with that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next video.